My name's Jeff St Laurent. This is the Live Tuesday call, and we got a great call lined up for you today. Special guest, one of my great clients, Dianna Gladney, is going to be on the call today. And like I said to people that right before I started the recording, she's going to be calling in maybe about 5-7 minutes or so. She had to adjust her lunch schedule at work. She does have a full-time job still as she's growing her coaching business. So the information that she's going to be sharing with us today is going to be very relevant, especially for those of you who still have a career or a job, if you will, that want to kind of transition into a full-time coaching business. But before she comes on the line and before we get kind of rolling into that, all my Tuesday calls are recorded. You can check them out in my university on my website, which is sellingcoaching.com. If you go to sellingcoaching.com, under the university, that's where you can have access to my live Tuesday call recordings. I also have a lot of other short videos, educational videos as well, as I help coaches transition to a full-time business. So a lot of fantastic education. And I'll tell you right off, if you've never been there before, there's a lot of calls there. I think I just posted my 76th call last week. So in these calls, I like to go into depth. I like to give a lot of information because I want to be able to provide you a valuable resource so you can transition to a full-time coach. So with that being said, use the search feature, type in some keywords, see what pops up, and kind of go from there. It's so easy to get lost in the sea of information, right? So do what's relevant for you where you're at right now and tackle the other subjects as you start to move your business forward. But you got to start from ground zero. So with that being said, on my website, sellingcoaching.com, I also have right on the homepage, I have a resource for you. It's an audio and PDF guide called the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches. So you can also check that out. And then lastly, at the top of my page of website, there's an invitation to come over to my private Facebook group. My private Facebook group, Selling Coaching over there, it's a great avenue for us to interact, get to know each other a little bit better. And I really love that platform. Is I love using that best for helping coaches communicate their message. Doing a lot of videos in there with coaches, a lot of my clients, a lot of even just people as well, get in there, doing the videos, and it's a great platform to start speaking your message. As a coach, if we're going to transition to full-time, if we're going to be getting paid and we're going to get clients, we've got to speak our message. There's no other way of getting clients besides speaking your message. There's so many avenues of speaking your message, whether it's live virtual calls like this, virtual things like a podcast, Facebook Lives even. There's blog posts, and there's live events, face-to-face events, things like that. But however it is, whether it's through the written or the spoken word or on video, we've got to be communicating our message. So that my private Facebook group is a great avenue for doing that. And in fact, right in the pin post in my private Facebook group, I have something called the Visibility Challenge. And with the Visibility Challenge, that's a great way as I challenge coaches to create 30 videos over 91 days. And that's where when Dianna comes on in a few minutes, she has thrived at that. She's been by far the most consistent person in the Visibility Challenge. She's gone through it 3 different times. So that, yes, she's created over 90 videos over those times. So it's been really cool seeing her consistency with that. But again, it's a great way of starting to develop your message and basically practicing it. And that's what this is all about. So as we're waiting for Dianna to come on, like I said, she's calling in from her lunch break, so she'll be here momentarily. But with that being said, one of the things, of the reasons why I asked Dianna to be on today is because, Dianna came to me, it was just over a year ago now, and she came to me from YouTube. And she saw my videos, all my Tuesday call recordings and my videos. Not only do I post them on my website, which is obviously where I drive people to, right? So from my marketing system, and I'm explaining this to you so you understand the behind-the-scenes mentality of it, right? So if you notice when I do these calls, I have the people like you that are listening live right now, but then obviously I have the recording. And then I send everybody to my website under my university to access those call recordings. It's a great way to drive people to your website consistently as you add new content. And obviously from there, if they haven't been on you get a free offer, which gets them on the email community. And then hopefully they'll do that. Maybe they'll join my private Facebook group if they haven't already. And maybe they'll get to that point where the timing's right and maybe they start looking through the Work With Me page, and they might reach out to potentially work with me as a mentor coach. Same thing I want you to be able to do is to speak your message and drive people there. But also with all those videos, I also put those on my YouTube channel. And it's a great host. It's a great, another avenue, if you will, to potentially get traffic, get people exposed to you. So Dianna came to me through my YouTube. Like she was searching for, I forget what she was actually searching for, but she found me on there, and then we started to communicate. She made a comment. I reached out to her, and the communication started that way. But one of the reasons why I want to bring her on today is because she has been so consistent. Like I said, not only just the videos in my group, being able to post those, like over the last year, she's done probably well over 100 plus videos. That's some pretty damn good consistency. But she's also, she started to hone her message and perfect her message. Not only has she been able to get paid for what she's doing with as a coach, but more importantly is she's created her brand, she's created her system, she's created a structure that allows her that consistency. And even more important than that is she's done that with a full-time job. And that's the important piece to understand is that no matter what your life situation is like as you want to do this transition to full-time coaching, you've got to be consistent with your business hours. And if you've been listening to my calls as of late, I've been kind of like harping on business hours a lot more. And only so I tend to go where coaches need it the most, right? And coaches where the questions are coming up the most. And that's what I found is that, when you're consistent with those business hours, meaning you're putting that time aside on a daily basis, and it's I call it that uncompromisable business time. You put that time aside with your schedule. What happens is it allows you that space where now you have the time. It's not like you're trying to find the time or catch up with the time. It's like you have the time to do those important activities, and that's the most important aspect of it all. Is it's like you have the time to do those activities, and that's the only way that you're going to become consistent is by having that time set aside. And as you know, as I say, consistency is the space where you're able to get that done. And a lot of times people get overwhelmed. Like I remember when I used to get overwhelmed when I started my coaching business. When I'd be online or I'd be looking around at all these other people, and I would say all these other, quote, successful people, right? The people who had been doing it for a while. And I get overwhelmed and I go, wow, I can't believe that they've done this for so long, and look at what they've created so far. But that's created just with consistency over time. And speaking of consistency over time, I believe Dianna is now on. Are you there, Dianna?
Here.
You are here, right? I was just talking you up and telling them why I was having you on as a guest and how you adjusted to your lunchtime schedule at work to do this. So again, I very much appreciate that.
Oh, I'm thankful to be here.
Yeah, and so I want to get right into this with you because like you have so much to offer. Like I said, basically, like you've been we started working together just over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And right out of the bat you found me on YouTube, right?
Yep, looking for selling coaching, and that's what came up.
There you go, right? So that's another testament to all of us to start to know our market and know what are people searching for, what do we want them to type in, and where do we want to pop up. But when you came to me, it's like you were, and I've said this to you many times, is an awesome student of mine, and I'd say definitely one of the best students in the sense of studying my information, because
Mm-hmm.
the stuff you would share back to me, when we would talk and have our coaching calls, our mentoring calls, like it was like, wow, it's like, that sounds familiar. I'm like, who said that? I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? But what I've been so impressed with you over the last year is, and the people that are in my Facebook group have seen this as well, is obviously you've done, the 30-day visibility, the 30 video visibility
Mm-hmm.
challenge 3 different times plus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And just your consistency is sickening. It's sickening in a good way, right? Like it's
Right.
You inspire me, Dianna, like you really do. And so
Wow.
I just wanted to get a feel, like celebrate your success with everybody, but I wanted to kind of get like the behind the scenes for you is like, where have you come from, so people know like your situation, what brought you to do coaching, and then like talk about like what's your evolution over the last year, and the keys to your consistency. I'm throwing a bunch out there at once.
I got you.
So yeah, start us off. Like obviously we started working together, and I know we're starting to trying to form your message, but kind of take us off from there, and then I'll kind of interject as we go along.
Okay. So it actually started before we actually connected. And so before then, so I had 16 months where every single day, like I was experiencing excruciating pain. They had, very strong painkillers. I was still having to come to work, and I was just out of it. And they got to the point, so I really did actually have to have an emergency surgery. My surgeon had to go and stop my surgery and pull another surgeon in just to kind of help with some of the challenges that were going on. And so when I contacted you, it was 2 months after I had just returned back to work and just really kind of experiencing that life or death, like real life, life or death situation. And it wasn't until that point, like I had been in business before, I had been in network marketing before, which we had talked about, and had some mentoring and kind of dabbled with it and got involved in personal development. So I had a lot of years in personal development, but not really the action of doing anything. So when it got to that point, I finally realized it's like, okay, my life has a purpose, my life has meaning, I got to do something. And so waiting to do anything, like that didn't exist for me anymore. Like I had to take advantage of the gifts and the skills and the talents that I had. So I had a lot of years of personal development. I wanted to put that to work. I did a lot of studying, trying to figure out the home-based business market and small business, and I would have a lot of friends that I would sit down with, or people that I knew, or would even be recommended to me on just the basics on how to start a business. And so after sitting down so many times with people, I just got tired of repeating myself for the same stuff. So I figured I'd do a podcast. And the more I started listening to other small business podcasts, I'm like, wait a minute. So I can turn the information that I have into a business and do coaching. I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I realized at that point, I'm like, well, crap, I suck at sales. And I was like, all I had seen before was that the hard selling, the hard closing, making people feel uncomfortable, or just all of that, all those negatives that we typically feel when it comes to sharing your message or what you have to offer and leading somebody to a decision. Well, it was really none of that. It was making people feel bad to get the sale, get the close, or whatever, and I didn't want to do that. So I had to figure out a way to learn to sell, but do it my way, do it in my personality, to where I'm okay with a yes or a no, and like I'm not just winging it every time. And so that's what led me to want to find, like, how can I sell my coaching services? And that's how I started searching on YouTube and Google. But I kept doing the podcast, kept getting introduced to other entrepreneurs, and so I was finding more and more information. So when I found your content and just the way that you share the information and the strategies that you were sharing, I knew at that point, like, this is somebody I have to hook up with, because like, everything that I wanted, I'm like, he's saying it. And especially when you had just a library of content, like, I had to just completely just divest myself into everything that you were saying. So before I even reached out to you, before I signed up for the email list, like, I was just on a binge from that day that I found you at work, because I sneak and I look for stuff at work. So, so I was sneaking.
Right.
looking for stuff, so I would just have it on the playlist, so that it would just play one after the other. And then I got home, I put it on my iPod, and then I finally got to the point, okay, let me see, find out some more about them, went on the website, and then that's when I signed up for the free offer. And when your message kicked back, and even though it was an autoresponder, and I had already been looking already, and you get those autoresponders, so I knew what it was. But the fact that that second one that comes out after the free email with the content for the ultimate guide, it was a more personalized message. So I felt comfortable responding, because I had already spent several hours with you audibly. Even though we hadn't talked, I had already got into the mindset of how I'm going to do this thing. So I knew I was going to get in touch with you. I just didn't feel quite ready just yet. And so it was when I responded, and then you responded back, and I'm like, okay, he's engaging, and I can talk to him, and it's as comfortable as I would have imagined, based off of just listening to you. And you get to know somebody and get to know their personality and their quirks. And, when they get excited, or when they laugh at something, that may be kind of quirky or whatever. But it's like, if it's your same, like, kind of personality type like me, then it's like you're laughing along with them. And so, like, we had been spending time together before we really knew each other, in my eyes. So by the time I reached out to you, I just wasn't ready. I didn't feel like I was ready, or think that I was, because I didn't want to waste a coach's time. I was like, I knew if I wanted to invest in coaching, then I want to be ready and know that I know that I know. And from the time that we started talking, and when I finally I felt like I had found the one, I found my Neo in the sea of everybody, sharing whatever. I found somebody that has the same principles and the same values that I do, has the same caring message, and can still get the same end results that I want. That's who I want to learn from.
Nice, yeah. So what a great testament, though, to the model that I teach, but also it's just I like how you describe it, because I want people to listen to it from the framework of like how people find you, how people start learning about you, how people come to eventually buy from you, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's what I want people to start hearing. So we start working together. Now take us from there in the sense of like your mindset, and obviously you're well disciplined, as you've outlined already, in the sense of like you just actively finding and seeking out information that's relevant for you. So you're like you're self-educating, not only just personally, but professionally, as you're starting to say, hey, I could do this as a business. Well, now I need to learn about how I can do this as a business, and that's how you come across someone like myself. So now take us on the journey from here of like doing the work, because that's the big piece.
Well, that was like my biggest challenge before when I was in network marketing. I was so afraid. Like I would literally be trembling to talk to a stranger, whereas if somebody got to know me, then I'm like how I am right now, and I'm just able to be myself. So I had some experience with quote-unquote trying, but I never felt confident in doing it. Well, after I had experienced everything that I had been through, I had finally got to the point I made a decision. I'm like, enough is enough. Like if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to invest in a coach and invest even more than what I already have in information, because I had already spent thousands of dollars that I kind of didn't have at the time for personal development and seminars or whatever, but never took action. So what made me want to take action was just being able to have somebody that I could be accountable to and that was accountable to my success. And so I had to report back, every week from our calls. So I'm like, well, I better have done something and did it. So I was still scared, but I did it anyway. And I guess the way that I was able to do that, because for me, it was like I already knew what it was like to be so many years in fear, having information, wanting to do it, wanting to be who you see yourself as, but never really doing it. And it's like, well, I already know what that looks like. It's going to get me nowhere and filled up with a bunch of information I can't do anything with. So when I got in touch with you and then we start working together, what made me want to start taking action on the things that I was learning and the other content and information that I was finding just for, other like marketing things that I would invest in, courses or whatever, was just like I finally wanted to make a change in my life. Like it got to a point to where I felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. And I know you hear people kind of say that, and I'm not just saying that to be like kind of facetious or whatever, but it really gets to that point to where you're creatively suffering, and you don't want to spend the other 30 years of your life living like that. And that's just kind of where I was. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to put everything I got into it. And I want to fail fast, so I just wanted to hurry up and go through it, whatever challenges. What made me be able to take action and just keep moving forward, I always would keep, and still do, keep a pen and a paper on me, physical pen and paper, not a tablet or nothing electronic, but I do have my phone that I always typically have with me too, that I keep the voice recorder app on me. So any questions that I would have as I'm coming up with stuff, because like once you become open and active creatively, like you can't close it. So like the mind is like a parachute, and once it's open, it can't go back to its original form. So that's how I was when I started to seek and search more information online, and how I came to find you, just looking for that one question. So every question that I had, I always searched for an answer as we developed our strategy and trying to figure out the messaging and who I'm going to talk to. It helped me develop current questions I need to ask myself and find an answer for, and future questions that I would have. So I would always write stuff down to the point to where no receipt is safe in my car or a napkin, because I'm going to write whatever it is that I have down, and then I have a dry erase board that I take everything down to, and then it's like, okay, I got all these great ideas. How can I organize this into a streamlined message? And so that's how it kind of seems like everything is perfectly aligned or whatever. I have ideas that I thought, 6 months ago, I just wrote it down and captured it. I don't care if I'm on the highway, I'm pulling over, and I'm going to get this voice recorder app going so I can capture it, because to me, the ideas are the things that you monetize. Like that's how you do it. It's not necessarily a certain course or even necessarily a certain person that you may learn from. It's the ideas that come from those teachings and trainings, the experiences and the networking and all of that. So it's just your own value, what's inside of you, bringing that out. And as that stuff starts to come out, most people let it fall by the wayside. I don't. Like, I will wake up in the middle of the night to go use the restroom and get an idea, and it's just like the toilet tissue is about to get written on because I keep it pen and paper. and there is like no area in my house is safe because I'm going to capture every idea that I have and organize it. So some are good for now, and then some are good for later, and then it's just coming up, working with that coach, putting things in a strategy and a system for that customer journey to make everything make sense.
Definitely. So what stood out for me the most of all that is your why. Like, you just had this insatiable, powerful why. Like you said, you just couldn't breathe anymore, and it's just like, I've got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's what drives you forward no matter what.
You know, that's exactly it. You have to have a why. You have to have a reason for doing something. When it got, like I said, my whole life shifted after I had that surgery, because when you go from a moment to where you can be here, and then you wake up and they're showing you all the reasons why you shouldn't be here, everything else didn't matter. How scared I was to talk to people, it didn't matter, because I got a second chance to really realize how valuable my life was. And my why is not just because I was on that table. I realized, because I already knew what my purpose was, is to have a music center, be able to teach kids and, do all those different things. This provides the way, it helps me learn my creative abilities and all that stuff. So it has a process, it's not the end result. So it's more than just the coaching. Like, I'm doing this in the process of getting to the purpose of my life overall. So absolutely the why is the critical and key point. And the way that I was able to find my why is I sat down, even long before I got sick, I sat down again with pen and paper, and I asked myself, why do I want this? Why do I want to be free? Why do I want time freedom? Why do I want to be able to provide for my family? Why are these things, why do they even matter? And I found out the selfish reason, like, I don't do things for my family. When I tried to make that my why, nothing got done. When I tried to make my why because of my nieces and nephews, nothing got done. When I made my why because of my true selfish reason is because I want to become the Dianna that I see, 15 years down the line, where I can send all my nieces and nephews to school, but I'm able to operate in my purpose and be fulfilled for me without anybody else around, then that's the thing that I always keep at the forefront of my mind. Nothing else matters. It's really selfish. Your why is not, and I think a lot of people get confused with that, because they'll say their kids, yeah, your kids are a portion of it, but without anybody else in the room, you were here first. You were here first, before any siblings or even if, like, I'm the last of 6, and I got 20 nieces and nephews, so family should be enough, but it's just not. It's me. It's me. and that is enough. And me being able to work towards my passion and see that goal and be able to touch it, breathe it, and it's very, very tangible, it makes it all worthwhile. So so when you compare all of that and the emotion behind it, like literally closing your eyes, seeing it, feeling it, go touch the car that you want, go drive, go to the house, and I did all of that stuff. The house that I want, when it's open house, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to walk in. May not have the money for it, but I'm creating the experience and getting my body used to touching it, feeling it, driving there, because eventually it's going to come to reality. And so my why and all of those different reasons, it makes it tangible, and I can see it and I can touch it in my mind's eye. And so when I compare that to having a sales call with somebody, that sales call now looks really, really small.
Yeah, comparatively, yeah. So you put that up against something that's so giant like this why, it makes all the other fears and apprehensions just kind of go away or seem just minuscule in comparison.
Yep, that's exactly it every time.
So, and I guess because my next question was basically, I feel like you just answered it, but, the days where you're tired or down or just having a bad day or whatever's going on in your world because you're human, I was like, how do you keep up with the consistency, right? How do you keep up with, like, the videos is a great example. It's just like you're doing videos like every day, basically. It seems like, But how do you get through just doing those when you're not in that space or you're having a hard time or doing the other work after a long 8-hour day at work? Yep. Plus commute and you know what I mean?
Yep. So I'm addicted to what I want. I really am. I really am addicted. So, like, because I'm still having challenges right now. Like I got to plan to go back to the hospital to see if I need to have a second surgery, if it's necessary or not. Oh. And so like you deal with all that stuff, you know, having pain. Like Sunday was a horrible day of pain. Like I was almost immobile, but at the same time, what do? So I know me. I know I'm gonna have times when frustration is worse than any sadness or any real anger, or, you know, somebody try to make you angry. So one of the things I always do is always work to control my emotions really well, especially being a woman. We're extra emotional, so I just try to get rid of the extra stuff and deal with the baseline. So knowing me, I know frustration is a bad thing for me, and if I try to push when I'm tired and I'm not feeling well, I'm going to mess up and frustrate myself, so I just don't. So those days I accept that today is a day that I'm off. Like when I get off today, today is a day that I'm off because I know I need to rest. Because Sunday was hard. I pushed hard yesterday. I'm still going today. I stayed up till 1 o'clock last night. So I know today is a day that I'm going to rest, and I'm not going to do anything. So I plan the days that I'm going to rest, and nobody is going to access me. Like my assistant, she knows, like today, I'm off today. Like figure it out. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And so like I plan those days and I'm off, but the days that I don't plan, like I had an aunt that recently passed, something like that kind of unexpectedly happens, I allow myself to be me. I allow myself to cry. I allow myself to be frustrated, and I don't try to force that at that time up against working. Like I allow space to be human. And so the days that I don't feel good, those are my planning days specifically, because I know I'm going to be in bed a lot. I'm going to be on strong medication, so I know I'm going to sleep for an X amount of hours. But the time when I wake up, I have my journal already in the bed. I have my tablet already charged and my laptop with a little lap pad. So if I get 45 minutes that I can focus and like plan out what I'm going to do for the rest of the week, then I accept that that's a planning day. So whatever other planning day that I may have scheduled when I was up and feeling well, things kind of get rearranged. So I allow it to be fluid. You know, I allow myself to be fluid and not get too frustrated with sticking to a schedule, because life is always going to have to make you subject to change.
Such a real, honest perspective on how you operate, right? Like for someone who, like comes across as on the outside perspective, super consistent, super disciplined, and now hearing behind the scenes in terms of just the way you organize things, the way you like writing stuff down on toilet paper, and and then you organize it, and right, like just the intricate details of how you operate. For someone listening, like I could imagine someone listening to this feeling like, holy crap, like I'm so not like that, or I could never be like that, or whatever someone might think. But like I love the phrase you said, Dianna, is like, I'm addicted to this.
Yes,
right? You're addicted to your business in the sense of not the business per se, but you're addicted to your dream and making it happen.
Absolutely. And you know what, Jeff, the thing is, like, I accept that I'm in this for the long game. I'm not in it for the short game. I don't expect overnight success would be nice, but I don't expect it to really happen. So I plan for the long game. So like it was a week that my assistant, her son had chicken pox, and I had some kind of virus. We're off this week. This is whenever day I feel like it. It's a planning day. That's what I'm going to schedule it as, or it's just a nothing day, and I'm just going to, sit back and watch Netflix today. So I don't try to overwhelm myself, and I don't hope that this makes anybody nervous. Like they have to do all that stuff. Like the only thing that I did was figure out how I work. What are my buttons? What makes me frustrated? What makes me sad? And just work around it. I work around it so that like the videos, it seems like I'm doing it a whole lot all the time or whatever. Unless it's a live video, then I'm like right then and there. Otherwise, on a Saturday or a Sunday or the middle of the night, if I get inspired, if I can't sleep, then that's going to be a batch recording session where the 4 or 5 next ideas on my from could have been 6 months ago, and now is the right time to talk about it. I'm going to sit down and record those next 4 videos, schedule them out for the next 4 weeks, and just progressively work on it, like maybe get one ready for this week and then progressively work on the next 3 and edit it. But I at least get the main content down and just record it. I'll edit it later or whatever, but I'll just at least get one ready, and then I can work on the rest later, so that gives me content to kind of put in a library for a day I don't feel good, but a video needs to come out or a podcast needs to come out. I've done podcasts laying in the bed, and I'm half doped up on medicine.
Right.
It just, it seems like, man, you're always there and whatever. It's like, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not all glitter and glorious. Sometimes it's gruesome. It looks ugly. I've done podcasts where I'm snot-nosed and I'm sick, but I'm out here.
Yes, and then that's how I was going to that like real approach is that it's like it could seem like overwhelming or daunting the discipline and the consistency that you're pulling through and all the things that you do, but the reality of it is like you honor your life, you honor where you're at, you honor those spaces, and you still have a life, right? It's like you leave your space for that. So, but what is the driver is the addiction to your dream and you wanting it bad enough. And I'm hearing is you're not making any excuses for, it's like, all right, I might have to have another surgery, or, someone passed away, or, this is happening. It's like you allow the space for the things that you have that are happening, but you don't allow them to pull you away from the dream.
Absolutely not, because this is a business that I know that I want until the day I decide I want to stop. Not retire, but the day I just decide I'm done. And that's a long, long, long way away. And like I said, that's why I know I'm playing the long game. So when you compare that, the next 30 years to a week off, it's like give yourself a break. It's like it's okay. You're coming right back. You're not going to quit. And when you're sold out and like you for real sold out that this is going to happen, like whatever goal you set, it's going to happen. You're okay with, crying because somebody passed away and allowing space to grieve, but I don't let it overwhelm me. I don't, life it's supposed to happen to you. It's going to happen to you. The opposition never bothers anybody that's not doing anything. They're not taking any action. He only gets in the way of people that are trying to do something. So expect crap to happen, but expect to be emotionally withdrawn at times. Not feel like talking to people at times. I mean, it's times I had to speak to coaching clients and I'm just not feeling it before the call, but I make myself do it because if I'm serious about this, if I want it, if I know within my heart of hearts that this is not something I'm ever going to let go, then do it. Just do it anyway. You'll get over it. It's only for an hour. It's only for 5 minutes that you're going to do the video or whatever. Like, just do it, get over it. And sometimes you just kind of got to suck it up. You just have to suck it up, push. You don't know how far you can go until you push yourself there. And I'll just constantly push myself to the next level. As for like those last 2 videos I did this last time, like I was saying before, I had worked 12 hours the day before, had stayed up, only got maybe like 4 or something hours of sleep, had to be back in my desk at 7:15, and I was pumped. I was pumped that day. Why? Because it had nothing to do with whatever was going to go on in the office. I have no control over that, but I do control my life and what happens and what I want to see happen, and that only happens with the activity that we do. And so like, again, you got to have a plan for yourself, because if you don't, somebody else will, and it's more than likely your day job. I don't profess like quit your day job and screw the job, because I always, whatever value I learn outside of the job, I bring into the job, which is why I'm able to get liberties and things like that. But so it's not about screw the job. I don't profess that kind of mentality. Whatever gifts and things that you have that you'll serve yourself, serve it here as well, because that's providing for the bills in your family currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I'm hearing the philosophy you have, the mindset you have, like these are all disciplines beyond the actual physical or the action-oriented disciplines. It's that mental discipline. It's the philosophy that you have, what you value, and that goes into and dictates, your actions from there. So I want people listening to this to start to recognize and kind of check yourself against someone. Right? That's why I wanted to bring Dianna on, right? You hear me talk about different things. But I want to bring someone else on as well, so you can start to hear, someone else's circumstances, someone else's story, how someone else operates from this. So you can kind of check, where am I, when I say falling short, meaning like from a discipline standpoint, from a why standpoint, from an addiction standpoint, like addicted to your dream. If I listen to this and I go, oh, geez, maybe no wonder I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, because it's like, yeah, I have a why, but is it that strong? Is it compelling me? Is, like you said, Dianna, is it measuring up against the sales calls or whatever the stuff I've previously perceived to be painful? Is it making it shrink in comparison? Because if it's not, maybe I need to go back and do some of the things like you said. You really dug into that why, and you ask yourself some questions. And you put yourself first, and that's so important.
Yep, it's discoverable. And I meet a lot of people, especially women that are older than me. and they feel like, well, I don't have anything left, or I've given it all to my kids. Of course you haven't. You have not. Life has still so much more to offer, even if you're at a younger age. Like, that's the only thing I kind of hate about my age. People feel like, oh, it's just because you're young. No, it has nothing to do with it. Like, it's about the heart, mind, and your willpower, and that's it. And you can tap into that at any time. But, yeah, if you feel like you don't have a why, or if it's not strong enough yet, you just haven't dug deep enough. You may have hit the top layer. Dig 4 or 5 more levels layer deep until you can no longer ask yourself why I'm doing this or why this is important to me, and then it has nothing else to do with anybody else. Then you know you've hit it. Then you know you've hit that rock bed of gold, and you've reached the promised land, and it's time to get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You keep asking until it's not about anybody else but yourself. That's that's something I want people to write down, is drill down to that why, keep asking why until it's not about anything else but yourself. That's a golden nugget right there. Yeah. That's huge. Absolutely. So another piece is like, so we started working together. Now, how long was it, even before working with me as well, like you were starting to do some things, as you said, how long was it before you actually got paid?
It was, I think,
like roughly?
Few months. It was maybe like nine months before I got my first client.
Right, and that's what I want to outline is that to me that's great, because a lot of people are expecting or hoping or wanting, just like you were, right? You wanted to get paid,
yep.
Right?
Right.
It's like, Jeff, I want to get paid. Like, and I remember mentoring session after mentoring session. It's like, okay, well, because I knew of anyone that I was working with, I'm like, I knew when you came back to a call, you more than did what we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. You more than did it. You applied it instantly, and it's like, damn, she's doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah, wow, and she's doing it well. And then I knew from hearing you, I'm like, yeah, she definitely has the skill set. She definitely knows what she's talking about. She's well equipped. She's educated. And so you would come back, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know if this is working yet. And we're like, well, let's keep going. But especially when you're in situations where, you know, maybe you're not getting the ultimate results of, let's say, getting paid, right?
Right.
That can be hard. But talk about that mentality there. Is just like, how do you keep doing the work? And because obviously you've been getting paid, not to the level obviously with where you want to be, but you know that, hey, this is not a short game. This is a long game. So what's the mindset there in terms of, especially when you're doing all the work, when especially initially, the payoff's not, it's there, but not at the level with which you need it or want it to be yet?
You always have to keep at the forefront of your mind, you're not a failure just because you haven't had that ultimate goal yet. And you just got to stay focused on what's important, do the work, and the numbers will work. And when you're waiting right before that pop happens, it's like popcorn in the microwave. At some point, that last kernel is going to pop. It's going to happen. Just keep it in the microwave. That's the only thing. Keep it in the microwave. You turn that heat off, you're done. Keep the heat on it.
That's awesome. Keep the heat on it. That's the way to go. And obviously go back to that why. Now, Dan, I know you got to get back to work. Like, you have, what, a couple minutes left at the most?
One.
Yeah, okay. So to wrap it up, thank you so much, first of all, for coming on and sharing this stuff. I got some great stuff out of this too, and hopefully people will listen to it as well. Last thing is just so people, if they want to get a hold of you or just kind of see what you're doing even more, tell us your website and how people can contact you.
DiannaGladney.com, where everything is, DiannaGladney.com.
Yep, and I'll list your website as well with the call and in the Facebook group as well, so people can always check that out. And yeah, so Dianna, thank you so much for sharing all that you did. I know we'll be seeing you at least on the Facebook group sooner than later, right?
Absolutely.